Welcome to the Live Big podcast, where real estate expert Nick Paynes shows you that everyone can build wealth through real estate investing. Nick and his featured guests will give you the tools, resources, and expert information you need to leverage real estate into a wealth-building strategy, so you can stop worrying about your 9-to-5 and start to live big. Here's Nick with today's episode.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Live Big podcast. I'm in my home office today. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, you get to see a nice background of my team's core values. I thought that was fitting for, just fitting for what we're talking about today, and honestly, what we're always talking about. So if you're just listening, you can envision it. It's a green and yellow tree with all of our core values surrounding it, which are service regardless of opportunity, reliability, gratitude, integrity, responsibility, empathy, education. Those are the important pieces of our tree. So anyway, let's get started today. I want to talk a little bit. This is going to be a little bit more on creating multiple streams of income. And so obviously a lot of that has to do with real estate, but we're going to focus more on creating multiple streams of income and why it's important and how we can improve our lives by doing that. So first, what I want to do is kind of review some different streams of income. And generally speaking, they're kind of there's like a handful of income streams that we talk about. And so starting with the most basic, we have what we call earned income. And earned income is generally your primary source of income. It comes from your regular job, right? So it could be an hourly wage, it could be your salary, your commissions, your bonuses, really a combination of all those things. So this is also, in my opinion, the number one way to build your wealth. Okay, so I don't think creating passive income is the number one way. I don't think investing in real estate is the number one way. I think that increasing the value to your employer, okay, and climbing the corporate ladder while getting pay raises is the first step to financial freedom, okay? Because what it allows you to eventually do is you can either climb that corporate ladder and stay with the company and be rewarded for your hard work and the value that you bring to the company, or you can take the educational experiences that you get while you're with the company to go off on your own and start your own business and start building your own little empire. So I truly believe that, working in the industry that you're working in is where you have the ability to, build extreme wealth, or where that really starts. Okay. So especially if you can learn to live on your base salary, and then you can save and invest all of your raises, right? So learn to live within your means and try not to live, obviously, either up to or beyond your means, which is going to be like that paycheck to paycheck. And every time you get a raise, you continue to spend more, right? So the idea is get those raises and learn to put that money away and start saving and start investing. And that's going to give you the opportunity to, grow the investable money that you have. So in reality, my favorite thing to tell people when they're looking like, hey, how do I get to this level? How do I save enough money to invest? Make yourself invaluable to your employer, okay? And continue to hone your skills. So again, like there's a reason that jobs like fast food and retail, there's a reason that those start off at minimum wage, right? Those jobs, at least to start, are made for entry-level workers, right? They're there to, learn the basic skills of being a worker. So you learn how to be responsible and show up on time and clock in and out, and you learn proper customer service, et cetera, right? So as you learn and you grow, you should become more valuable, right? So you need to offer yourself up to the company to be utilized in growth. So you're constantly seeking opportunity from the company and going to your boss and saying, I want more responsibility, I want more responsibility, I want more responsibility, right? Like be a bug in their ear, right? So I think when you're working in a job, any job for that matter, you're selling yourself, right? So sales, whether you're selling yourself or you're selling something, is all about consistency and follow up, right? So if I want to sell a house, for example, and I've got a lead that I just got, if I call that lead one time, the chances I'm going to sell a house off of that one time are very, very low. So we're going to create consistency. We're going to figure out when that lead is looking to buy, and we're going to classify them, I'm going to call them on a bi-weekly or a bi-monthly or every other month basis. And I'm going to be consistent with that depending on how far they're out. Once I follow up with them 10, 12, 13, 14 times, I'm significantly more likely to get to earn that business. And I think it's the same thing if you're constantly going to your superiors, letting them know, hey, I'm ready for more responsibility, and then proving that through, being very diligent at the work that you're currently doing. So once you build your value, then you can start working on the rest of the streams of income. Okay. So the next, in my opinion, would be what we call business income. And this is money that you earn in exchange for a product or a service, right? So the first one, earned income, is generally earned in exchange for your time. Or your commitment to, performing a certain job. When you have business income, it's in exchange for a product or a service that you're offering. And once you hone your skills in your prior job, you may start thinking about starting your own business using those skills, right? So there's more risk and stress involved with starting your own business, but the reward is usually more lucrative, and you tend to control your own future, your own destiny, right? So we tend to make a little bit more money. We tend to be able to control our schedules a little bit more. We don't have somebody looking over our shoulder telling us when we can or can't take vacation, all those different things, right? So the business income can be really important. And this is where we start to see some tax benefits, right? If you're an S corporation, you might be able to do the qualified business income tax deduction, 20% off the top, tax free. So there's some things that we start to build upon. We start to get rewarded for taking risks in life. Okay. So once you have that extra income, then you can start to generate some more passive streams of income. So those first two are going to be like active forms of income. They're earned income, business income from a business that you're running on a day-to-day basis. Okay. Once you have that extra income, you build your income enough that you can start investing. Now you can get some more passive streams of income. And what that means is that the income isn't directly related to the amount of time and energy that you put in. So you're essentially putting your money to work instead of your mind and your body, right? So some of these passive forms of income might be like just at a very basic level would be interest income. Okay. So income that is earned by lending your money out. So the most basic form of this is putting your money into a savings account at your local bank. And when your money's in the bank uses that money to loan out to somebody else who pays interest on that money. And subsequently, then the bank pays you a portion of that interest. Now, they pay you a very small portion, right? So if they're loaning money out at 7%, they may pay you 1% of that, or they may even pay you less than that. Okay. But you earn the interest just by having your money there. No work is involved at all, right? So this would be considered one form of passive income, which is your interest income. Okay. The second would be a dividend income. So dividend income is similar to interest income, but it comes from actually owning shares of a company, right? So this is owning stock or owning, equities or mutual funds or something like that. You're going to own a share in a company, and the dividends, much like interest, might be paid out on a monthly, quarterly, yearly basis. So those are going to be the most common form of dividend income. Of dividend income. And again, it is something that is completely passive, right? It doesn't have anything to do with how much you work or how much effort you put into something. Okay. So the next piece is rental income. Obviously, this is what we get into mostly on this podcast, and what I believe to be the most powerful of income outside of the earned income, right? So, and there's a point where the rental income can surpass the earned income, right? But the earned income is what lets you get to have rental properties. So without earned income, you can't really get the rental income. Right? You've got to have money to be able to invest. You have to be able to have investable assets. So that's why I believe earned income is your number one. But after that, I do believe rental income becomes the most powerful out of anything else. So whether you own residential rentals, commercial rentals, you're earning income by renting out a piece of property that you own. So as you've heard in this podcast before, like positive cash flow is not the only advantage of a rental property. So not only do you potentially have positive cash flow, but there's huge tax advantages. You get principal paid out on the loans, you get appreciation. So there's all types of different returns that we get with that rental income. And again, it's now passive. Every time you get a check, it has nothing to do with the amount of time or effort that you put into that particular rental property, right? Next one will be capital gains. Okay, so a capital gain is a form of income that's earned when an investment is sold. So if you're selling a stock that's increased in value, or a piece of real estate that's increased in value, really any type of investment that's increased in value, capital gains also have a separate tax advantage over earned income. Okay, so it's usually taxed at a lower rate. Obviously, it depends on your tax bracket, but it's usually taxed at a lower rate. In fact, there's some if you have a low level of earned income, sometimes the capital gains tax are sometimes there's no capital gains tax if you earn very little money. That's an interesting loophole and workaround. You'd have to earn very little money for that to work. But there are the separate tax advantages over earned income. So again, a few presidential elections ago, a lot of people were upset with Mitt Romney, for example, who they were saying, is a millionaire and pays 15% tax. Well, it's because all the money that he makes came from capital gains, long-term capital gains on his investments. And that's what the capital gains rate is 15%, where somebody of his stature and of his income potential probably should have been somewhere in the 30 to 40% tax bracket. So, but again, it's a perfectly legal tax strategy to try to move your gains to your income to capital gains, right? So again, only can be done if you increase your earned income enough to produce investable assets, so that you can get to a point where you have these passive streams of income. Okay. So there's another form of income I don't really want to get into, but it's like royalties and licensing. So if you come up with a great idea or something like that, and you patent something, you can sell your patent. You can. This is how musicians and actors and actresses, a lot of times they get paid on royalties on how many times their song or their movie is played, that type of stuff. So anyway, that's another form of income, but that's similar again to an earned income because you're actually performing work. So I want to talk a little bit about why it's important to have multiple streams of income, and more importantly, the passive streams of income. Okay, so obviously, I think on the surface, it's fairly obvious. Like the more money you have coming in from different ventures, the better. But the reality is, when you really think about this, your time has value. Okay, but you only have so much time in your day that you can allocate toward money-making activities or toward earning. Okay, so if you don't have balance, if you work too much, you burn out. And if you don't work enough, you don't make enough money to support yourself or to invest. So if you can get yourself to a point where you have investable assets and you can create passive income, it's a very desirable strategy to get paid during the hours that you don't work, right? So like I like to call it wake up money or mailbox money, because you wake up and the money's there. You open your mailbox and the money's there, right? So like it's such a powerful thing to be able to generate income 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, right? And so we all trade, or we all start our lives, especially our working lives, trading our time for some money, right? So maybe it was $10 an hour when we started. And as we get better at our jobs, we start earning raises. So maybe we go to $12 an hour or $15 an hour. But every industry tends to have a cap, right? There's only so much money you can make working in retail. There's only so much money you can make working in fast food. There's only so much money you can make as maybe an engineer. At some point, you got to start trading back some of that money to get your time back, right? And so maybe it's time to do more things around the house. Maybe it's for more time to spend with friends and family. But the sacrifice will have to be monetary, right? And so what I would encourage you to do as you grow is, when you trade money for more time, When you get that time back, find a way to trade the time back for more money than you were previously making, right? So, for example, if you were making $50 an hour for 40 hours a week, $2,000 a week, okay? If you could take 10 of those hours off and work 5 of those hours at $100 an hour, you'd make the same exact amount of money, but now you're only working 35 hours a week. Okay. And then every day and every week and every month, you chip a little bit more away at that 35 hour job that you have. And you start doing more $100 an hour jobs. And now you're working 30 hours at $50 an hour, and you're working 10 or 7.5 at $100 an hour. Right. So especially when you're younger, right, and you have the ability to work more, and maybe if you don't have kids or you don't have a family yet, like, trade your time for money, and then find a way to find a position maybe where there's more money and start working at that. Trade your cheaper time for more expensive time, right? So trade your $12 an hour job for an $18 an hour job. Trade 18 for 25, and so on and so forth. And soon what'll happen is you'll understand why people pay for things that maybe you could never dream of paying somebody to do, right? Maybe you're like, I would never pay somebody to clean my house. It's too expensive. Or I'd never pay somebody to cook my food. It's too expensive. I'd never pay somebody to mow my lawn. But what you'll find is that you'll start understanding why people pay housekeepers and landscapers and mechanics and things like that. Because while many people would just assume to do those things themselves, if your value becomes $200 an hour, why wouldn't you pay somebody $50 an hour to do one of those tasks? So maybe you're paying somebody $50 an hour to cut your lawn. But during that hour, instead of you cutting your lawn, you go out and you make $200. So it all comes down to the opportunity cost of every decision you make. So if you pay someone $50 an hour for 4 hours, but you can make $200 an hour, you're going to come out ahead $600. So instead of spending 4 hours doing yard work, you pay somebody $200 to do it, and you go spend that 4 hours doing something better. Okay. Or even better, work 1 hour to pay for it and take the other 3 hours to spend with your kids or your family or whatever you want to do. Right. So I think, like, the most important thing to remember in all of this is that you need to learn to increase your value every single day. So, once you start to once you start to out earn your cost of living, you can start to invest and start making money passively, right? But it takes a little bit of self-control, because if you start, every time you get a raise, you go out and you buy a new car and you buy a new house, or I don't want to argue too much about buying a new house. I think, again, buying real estate is always a good investment. But, people buy a new car, they go on vacation, or they go, buy new clothes or whatever, because they get this bonus or they get this raise. But maybe start thinking about, like, hey, I lived just fine the last 2 years on this particular salary. Why can't I continue to do that and use these investable assets, right? So invest the money and start pushing off, and be okay with delayed gratification, right? Be okay with the fact that, I don't get to show everything that I may have or that I may be valued at right now. But later in life, I'm sure going to enjoy early retirement or vacations or whatever it may be, right? So start to out earn your cost of living. Like, that is your number one thing, is to provide more value for your employer, provide more value for yourself. If you're self-employed, provide more value for your people, right? So again, I think I have to move out of the way here. I don't know, you won't see it on my screen, but our number one core value is service regardless of opportunity, right? And so that just means we are helping people. We are being the most valuable resource that people can find, regardless of any opportunity that we may come across. And what happens is it just naturally happens this way. If you are always a resource for somebody, whether, again, it's your employer or your family or your friends, you are seen as that reliable person. And being reliable and giving value back to the people in your lives, the community, whatever it may be, will bring that value back to you tenfold, right? So it's incredibly important to continue to build your value with whatever you're doing, out earn your cost of living so you can start investing and make money passively. Okay. The wealthy don't get where they are by earning W-2 wages their whole life. Okay. They get it by starting businesses, investing in stocks, buying real estate, and taking advantage of compound interest. Okay. So this is a shorter episode today. I hope that it's valuable. I hope it maybe give you some vision or some insights or just some, I don't know, maybe a jump start, a fire under your butt to go out and be more valuable at wherever you are. And if you don't feel like you can be more valuable wherever you are, go find somewhere where you can. Find somebody who values you more, right? So thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope I've left you with some valuable insight. Do yourself a favor, enhance your value so you can go live big.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Live Big podcast. For even more real estate and investment resources, go to blackyetigroup.com/resources and download Nick's complete guide to running your own rental properties. Tune back in next week for another episode, and until then, live big.
Live Big does not provide investment, legal, or tax advice, and nothing herein should be construed as being financial, legal, tax, or other advice. Live Big does not represent that any securities or services discussed are suitable for any investor. No investment or other decision should be made solely based on the contents or information found on the website or podcast. When making a decision about your investments, you should seek the advice of a professional financial advisor or qualified expert.